I've made a number of posts about this. That, yeah, put yourself in a box. People are like, but I don't want to be in a box. Put yourself in a box. Then you'll worry about getting out of the box later. But right now, you need to sell yourself as this is what you are. What do I do?
That's right.
Know?
That's right. And so many new writers are still struggling with that. And I said, people cannot help you if they don't know where to put you.
You're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin. Hey everybody, this is Michael Jamin, and you're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This. My co-host Phil Hudson has got the day off again. He's doing some more work behind the scenes, but I'm here interviewing the amazingly talented Dawn DeKeyser. And Dawn, let me tell everybody who you are. I need to remind you who you are.
Okay, please do.
So you got a long history of writing some pretty great shows. So first you started, I guess, on All American Girl. That was the Margaret Cho show. You did Ink, Ted Danson. Remember that one? I remember that one. News Radio. You wrote on News Radio. You wrote on All Right Already, which I did not know. I guess you wrote with Stephen Engel on that one. I didn't know that. Conrad Bloom. You know, I went to college with him. We were friends in college. Mark Feuerstein. But I haven't talked to him since. And then the Gina Davis show, starring who starred in that? The Becker again. Ted Danson. Let's just listen to these credits you got. They're amazing. Just for Kicks, Ugly Betty. We know Betty LaFea. Samantha Who. If I were on that show, I would have been insufferable because someone would have said, yeah, I have an idea. What if Samantha goes on a date? And I would be like, Samantha Who? That would have been my joke every day. Signed, sealed. I skipped one. The Client List. Signed, sealed, delivered. Hit Streak. The Gourmet Detective. Summer Love. The Good Witch. Thank you, John. Thank you so much. Look at me. Are you impressed with how much work?
I am so impressed. Who knew? I had no idea.
Done a lot of. So anyway, I thank you so much for joining because we've never worked together. Even though I've known you for years, I always figured we would work together at some point. We just never did, and I blame you for that.
I blame me. We were on the same studio lot. We were next to. We had bungalows next to each other, so that counts completely.
Yeah. You were always a familiar face.
But before we start, can I curse?
Sure. Why? Is there something you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, no, just that in the course of talking, it's going to play a part of describing my path in life. And I don't think I could do it without some goddams and fucks. So
do it up.
Okay.
Because we're getting to the truth. Again, so let's begin. How did you where did you start? How did you get into sitcom? Everyone wants to know how people get into sitcom writing or TV writing. So how did you get in? Yeah.
So, and we all come from different angles on different paths. And in order to get to my TV days, I'll just say a little bit about my background. I was raised in a military family and my dad was a fighter pilot. And I grew up in a very great Santini kind of house. I say I was the best son my dad ever had because I was tough and competitive, and I weighed 92 pounds, and I was pugnacious.
Were you the only child?
No, I had two sisters. So my mom, who was lovely, she would dress my sisters and I all in matching dresses, hats, gloves, and shoes, and we would march out onto the tarmac and salute the F-4 Phantoms as they landed.
Wow. And so you moved around the country then, probably?
Yeah, I was born in Japan, and I lived in England.
Oh my. And so you're military brat. And then when you say great Santini, it's because your dad was strict?
Oh.
Now, do you want to start cursing now? What did you want to curse?
Well, let's see. We did have a flow chart of our chores on our bedrooms when we were, I think, starting at 3 and 4. And our beds had to be made with hospital corners.
Really?
And we would have to stand in a line at attention and understand what our chores were going to be for the day and for the week.
Because you're so not that. You're so, kind of almost soft-spoken, very gentle. You have very warm energy. You're not,
It's taken a long time to get this out of my system. So when I was in junior high, we moved from England to Texas, and I went from writing English, horseback, to competing in rodeos. And I then started racing sailboats. And by college, I was on the varsity team. And by the way, I paid my way through college, working 2 or 3 jobs each semester. And I started working when I was 15. That's a little Rob Cohen of me.
Yeah. Wait, where did you go to school?
Which time? I went to, so in college, I went to the University of Texas and I studied international business. And then I dropped out of UT and moved to Belgium, where I worked at a division of NATO for
I feel like you might speak a lot of languages. Do you speak, how many languages do you speak?
I used to speak French when I worked in the warehouse with the Belgians.
Right.
And then, when my other girlfriends were cheerleaders and all that, I was treasurer of the Latin club. I don't mean to brag.
Wow. So you speak Latin. I knew you spoke Latin.
And so then after dropping out, I went back and I finished up my degree in appropriately named a BS in advertising. And that's really when I started my writing career. And let's see, what did I do? So I started.
You worked in advertising.
So I got to work on TV, radio, and print. And in fact, my first assignment was writing dozens of scripts for David Brenner for Taco Bell.
That was your work. Now I know your work.
That's what I'm known for. So getting closer to the TV part, I was living in Dallas. My boyfriend was discovered by a talent manager, and he immediately moved out to LA and became a successful actor.
Do we know his name?
Yeah, I'll say it. I mean, it was a long time ago. So Tom Hayden Church.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, and so his confidence and his uniqueness was just like he broke in right away. And I went on to New York and in advertising, which I loved. And, after a while, after about 2 years, I thought maybe I could write something longer than 30 seconds. So I took writing classes at night. I did improv, which I was terrible at because of that. Let's revisit the military background. I am not spontaneous.
You're not supposed to go off script when you're in the military.
Oh no. And I'm very methodical. And, by this time I was like mid to late 20s. And I guess I was having a quarter life crisis and thinking, what do I want to do? And what do I love doing? I loved writing and I loved sitcoms more than anything. I didn't know how to do that. I called Tom, who was at the time on Wings. That was his first series. And I said, could you send me, by now my ex-boyfriend. And I said, could you send me the writer's draft through a producing draft? I want to see the transition of how this writing is done. And so then I started taping my favorite shows and then doing the stop and pause on the VHS tape.
Like really studying how long a scene would be, what the act breaks are, everything, huh?
All that, the dialogue, and I would map out the beats on a notepad, which, by the way, I still write on old-fashioned paper notepads for everything, and then I transfer it to the computer.
Wow, that's old school.
That is old school, and it is all about the ritual. And I think there's something about the brain to the heart to the hand that gets on paper that I don't get when I write.
But you must be able to read your handwriting, because I can't read my handwriting. I couldn't even try.
I can't. I can get the gist of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So Tom sent me a series of one script, and I was writing my own 2 spec scripts, and then I moved to LA with $3,000 in cash.
And what part in LA did you live at first?
I lived in Los Feliz, which was being hailed as the new West Village of LA, and it is not. And I was living right on Vermont Avenue, and I slept on my bathrobe for the first 2 weeks until my stuff came from New York.
But you had a place all by yourself, or you have roommates?
No, I had a place to myself. I mean, it was $700 for 1 bedroom.
That sounds about right. That's a good deal, actually. Even then, that's a good deal. So, okay. And then how did you finally get work?
So I was writing these spec scripts and I sent them to Bill Diamond and Mike Salzman. And when I moved out to LA, they were my first meeting.
But how did you know them?
Through Tom, because they were baby writers on the show.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they said, we thought you were just going to be some gal who had this idea of writing for sitcoms, but you know what you're doing.
Right.
And I was very happy about that. They didn't give me my first break.
But they weren't. They were just staff writers at the time.
Yeah, which is fine. You know, I thought the first thing I needed to do was build a community. So I took a UCLA extension class at night. And on the last day of the class, everyone was filing out. Someone turned around and said, the deadline for the Disney Writers Fellowship is tomorrow. You have to have your work postmarked by then.
Okay.
And I ran home and got my stuff in the mail the next morning. And I sort of, like that intro that I just talked about my life, I sort of put some of that in the essay that you write for what's your unique background, and then sent in a Murphy Brown, maybe. I'm not sure.
You had a bunch of specs, probably.
No, I had, because I'm very methodical, I would spend 6 months writing each of them. Okay. And that's night and day, workshopping, doing writers groups, doing punch up, until I felt like every page that your eyeballs land on made sense and was good and had a joke, and you knew where the characters were going.
Before we skip ahead, you said something I thought was really smart. You said you wanted to build your community, right? Because a lot of people don't even think about that.
Yeah.
So you knew you knew you wanted help, or you wanted, like, what? What were you looking for?
Well, I knew that I didn't know anyone here. Tom was off on his own fabulous life. I knew a girl from Dallas from years before, but there was no one that I could send my stuff to. And I did cold calling to the agents, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
And so in the UCLA classes, I would usually, if you've got a group of 20 people, there's 2 that get it. Let's say 10%.
Get you, or what do you mean get it?
I mean, they get they are really there to learn and to be in that field. Some others, it's a fun class to take. Right. But you can tell the 2 or 3 people that are very interested in moving their career forward. Right. So I ingratiated myself and said, let's form a writers group. And that was okay. That was fine until you start meeting people through them. They bring in their set of information that you don't have access to. And then it just starts growing. Right.
Yeah, you got to be there. And you were there. No, how are you making a living? You're still working in advertising now?
So I wasn't doing advertising. I was temping, and I had this job at Disney on the lot where I was answering phones for the head of marketing. And I thought, I'm advertising and marketing. And because on the second day, he came out of his office and he said, who are you? And why are you so bad at answering phones? Like, you're dropping calls and you're sending in the wrong people. And I was like, yeah, because this is really what I do. I actually love the one-sheet movie posters that you guys are writing. So I'd like to write headlines for that. And I had secretly gone into the files to see what their freelancers were invoicing them.
Interesting.
And he said, yeah, I don't think you're right for that. So I brought in my portfolio the next day. And he said, I think you're right for this. So I started picking up freelance for movie posters.
But that was not, see, some people think that that's how you break in, but I wouldn't think that that's how to break in. That's just how to make a buck, right?
What do you mean?
Well, that wouldn't, working in that advertising side for Disney wouldn't get you, you're on the Disney lot, but it wouldn't get you as get you work as a sitcom writer.
That's right. So that predated getting into, so I got in the Disney Writers Fellowship.
Right.
That was over the course of like a two-month process of interviewing and meeting with their executives. And I went into that meeting thinking, this is what I moved out here for. And they said, so what is your plan if this doesn't work out? And I said, this is going to work out. I really can't imagine y'all finding someone better or more dedicated to doing great work. I really want to do this. I want to work with my heroes. I want to work with people that will make me a better writer.
And who are your heroes then?
Well, weirdly enough, I had a top 5. One was Diane English. One was Chris Lloyd, the writer.
How did you know Chris Lloyd? But yeah, I was so surprised. How did you know Chris? Like, how was he? Diane English.
Yeah, Diane English. Chris was
Was he running? He wasn't running Frasier then.
He was like higher up on Frasier.
Wow. Okay. I'm surprised you even thought of him. But I mean, yeah, he's great. He is a great writer for sure.
Yeah, he is. And I can't remember the other three, but within the first 2 years of breaking in, I worked with all 5 of them.
Wow. Wow. Now, what was the fellowship like? Because we did the Warner Brothers Writers Workshop.
Yeah.
I'd rather you talk about it. What was the Disney one like? What was your experience there?
It was so great. They picked 5 people. I think they had in that year 3,000 applicants. They picked 5 of us, and
Wow, that's it.
Pardon?
That's it. I didn't know it was that small.
Well, I think it's bigger these days. I think they take on 10 or 20, which is good. And they had another 5 fellows that did only film, and our 5, who I'm still in contact with today, we would meet twice a week at each other's houses, and then usually once a week or every 2 weeks we'd go to Disney and we would pitch where we are with our spec scripts. So it was a small stipend that paid the rent.
Oh wow! Of those 5, all 5 went on to work.
Not consistently, not really.
Okay.
But that again was just, I think it has everything to do with focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk about that a little more of like,
Yeah.
if you don't pick a lane. I am a sitcom half-hour multi-camera writer. That's what I want to do.
Right. I so intrigued because I say that I've made a number of posts about this. That put yourself in a box. People are like, but I don't want to be in a box. Put yourself in a box. Then you'll worry about getting out of the box later. But right now, you need to sell yourself as this is what you are. What do I do?
That's right.
Know?
That's right. And so many new writers are still struggling with that. And I said, people cannot help you if they don't know where to put you.
Yeah.
And so if you say, oh, I write drama and comedy and romance, it's like, that's great for you. But I only know comedy writers.
Right.
So I don't think I'm going to even help you because I don't know if you're really connected with that or with drama or
how serious you are about it. Yeah, exactly. Market yourself. Make it easy for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you see? It's so much. Sometimes I wonder, am I just bullshitting? Am I making this up? Am I the only one who feels this way? No, I don't think. I think I'm saying stuff everyone else thinks, agrees with.
You are not alone. And you're getting such great information out there to so many people. It's really spectacular.
You're very kind.
You're
Michael Jamin.
But
that's me. Then what? You have, all right.
So then I was in the fellowship, and they don't promise, but they say we may place you on one of our Disney shows. And that's where I went on to All American Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And
were they paying you? Because on Warner Brothers, if they staff you on one of their shows, you get, at least back then, you work for like a third of scale. A third. But was that the case on Disney?
We didn't get paid, but we got paid for the scripts that we wrote because they were already paying. Like Warner Brothers doesn't pay you to
right. No, Warner Brothers you pay to get in.
Oh,
yeah, we paid.
We paid like I think it was like $400 each or something, but I think it's way more than now. I think it's a lot more now.
No, they would place you as free labor on their shows, and it was my first experience in the writer's room. It was hard. I had trouble being heard, and I did end up, we had an order for 13 episodes. I ended up writing 3 of them.
What was your 3? That's a lot actually for a staff writer. I wonder why. Weren't you muust have been scared.
They liked my writing. They like I spent, again, it was like, I really sweated it. This is another thing that I stress to writers is sweat it. You can't make a lot of money if you're not putting that amount into your writing and your own career. So
yeah, so 13, that's a lot. But what was it like? I mean, I always think that when we first got into Shoot Me, I was like, I'm in over my head. I am in over my head.
Yeah.
How did you felt the same way?
I am in over my head. It was terrifying. And I realized that I wasn't a match for people who'd been in writing rooms that were louder, funnier, more obnoxious, mostly just louder. Mm-hmm. So I sat next to this one writer, and I'd whisper things to him to see if he could pitch them for me.
And did he?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they went over, and then did he give you? Did you say that's
Oh
Dawn?
yeah, yeah. He would give me credit, but I said I don't even want to push that. I just want to see.
Right. If you're on the right.
I want to be part of this game, but I don't know how to play.
Yeah, right, exactly right. And it takes several. How long did it take you before you felt like you knew how to play? How many years?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because my next job was on news radio,
Right.
and I had felt like an All-American Girl that I was getting my sort of getting my feet under me, but that was they were kicked out from under me on the next actual staff job that I have.
Right.
That I had, and it took me quite a long time to feel okay in the room, and it really wasn't until many years later when I was in the Ugly Betty writers room, because you had drama writers there who were so great about staying on focus with the story and not performing. And the performance of the comedy, when you do a comedy pitch, I was scared of.
Oh, interesting. So, because they don't have, obviously, when you're doing a drama, you don't have to be funny. So they're basically just talking about the story points. Because I've never really worked on it, and they're not hoping the joke will land, because there is no joke.
It was so weird to go out on an act with no joke. It was like, wait, we can just cliffhanger like that.
Do you feel like these drama rooms are more civilized because of that?
Yeah, definitely. They were just more writerly and more mature. And I say that sitcom writing was a full contact sport, and I didn't realize that when I started. I wanted to be around really funny people, and it was so much work for me. There was the whole other aspect of being a female writer, and oftentimes the only woman in the room.
Talk about that experience a little. What's that like?
Well, it sucked.
It sucked.
It was so.
But not all the time, just sometimes, or all the time.
Every time.
On every show. Every show.
No, if there were other women in the writer's room, it was a little less terrible.
But still terrible?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't until I got into dramedies and then dramas that I just felt like, okay, I can do my work. I could be funny. I'm much funnier on the page. And I would just think, oh God, I got to get out of the writer's room so I can be funny. Right. So that was not the best strategy.
Right.
And I was the only woman on news radio that year. Andy and Eileen were there, and they left after a few episodes.
Right, but you overlap with them, right? Because that's how I met you, through Eileen, I think.
Oh, probably, yeah, that's right.
And they were both very. I remember on Just Shoot Me, both of them, they pitched a line, like a story idea, and then people like, "Oh, that's good." I'm like, "How do you know it's good? How are they doing this? Like, how do you know?" Anyway. But
I think I don't know. Would you say that it helps to have a partner?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It helped a lot. I mean, the two of us were clinging to each other for dear life. I think definitely it's way more intimidating to do it on yourself. But what do you experience even now or like lately when you have a staff writer who feels the same way that you felt? Like, what goes on there?
Well, working on pilots, there was one young girl who came in and just to sort of observe. And I just took to her because she was so, she had a script in a big binder with all of it color coded with all of her notes. I was like, oh my God, you're after my heart.
Because she's so prepared. Young writers come in prepared sometimes.
Yeah, they do. And I just said, you are after my heart. I will help you in any way that I can. And she was working for quite some time. I think she lives on the East Coast now. Right. But it's that showing up prepared and really earnest. Like, I love that one. I kind of love when people try a little too hard, and sometimes it can be cringy. I'm just like, yes, I get it. That's me.
But have you also, because I've experienced young writers who kind of don't understand, they don't know what they don't know as well. And they kind of argue or overstep and, but have you experienced that?
Oh yeah. And one of the first things I say is do not litigate. Do just take it in. And it's also the once you learn how to take notes on your script and realize that it's not personal, get out of your own fucking way. Get out of your way, because after like being in writers groups, we had rules about how we gave notes to each other, and the person getting the notes has to shut up. You cannot explain why you put something in a script. It's like, I don't care why you put it in there. Here's me as a reader is not getting this part of it. And there's been plenty of times I'd be giving people notes, and just like in classes or writer's room, classes and writer's room, and I could tell that they didn't want the note.
Yeah. Oh, well, no one wants a note.
I mean, just like basic stuff, especially in writers groups, where if they are arguing their stance and their reason for why they wrote something, it's like, oh, I get it. Okay, you're good. You're good to go. All's good.
Right. And so it's so funny how we have the same, like we've never worked on the same show. We've had so many of the same exact experiences.
Yes. Although I would venture to mention that, in some writers' rooms, it's like, I was not safe. I was commented, my body was commented on when I would walk into a room and when I would leave a room. And I was told to suck it up by my agents because it was a really good show. Or
do you think they were trying to be funny, or were they being sexual harassing? Like, what were they trying? What was the?
Sometimes it was just trying to be funny, but it was funny at my expense. I say I was humiliated for sport on a particular show, and they were cruel. And they were also like, my agents came in after one of our show tapings, and they looked around the office and went, "Oh, I see what you're talking about. It smells like rancid cheese in here. The guys are walking around in boxer shorts. They had brought futons to their offices because they were just staying there.
Because the hours is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. And they also had jars of their pee in the offices because I thought that was hilarious."
Yeah.
So that's not just being like, I don't know.
And it's interesting that you were able to speak up about this, because this was before people were really speaking up about this. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't until more recently. That's
to your agent, at least you did,
Well, I just said it's so hard. I mean, it's so, and that my agents were women.
And they still.
Yeah.
What do you think, if that were today, though? I can't imagine.
It wouldn't happen today.
Yeah.
You'd be taken a lot more seriously.
Yeah. It wouldn't happen today. That show ended up not hiring a woman writer for the rest of its run for like 3 or 4 more seasons.
But from what I understand, well, maybe I shouldn't say which show it was. Did we say which show it was?
I know
I may have earlier, but
I know some of the shows that you were on, the hours were absolutely terrible. Like, what were those? What was that like?
That was like being held hostage by a crazy person.
Right.
And that sometimes the showrunner would be on medication and they would not be able to focus, and they would just kind of keep us there. A lot of times you'd hear about showrunners who just didn't want to go home to their wife and kids, which is terrible.
Right? Wow.
Yeah. So that was hard. I mean, driving home at 4 a.m. and then getting up at around 10, and then getting back to the office by 10:30 or 11.
Was there a lot of sitting around and waiting, or was it all work?
No, it was a lot of sitting around and waiting and storytelling, regaling each other.
Jeez.
But things are not, they don't work that way anymore, which is.
Yeah, I don't think so. You got to, that's a bad situation. Sometimes, like, we did a couple bad hours, like, on Just Shoot Me, but it was never because we were dicking around. It was because, like, a story blew up and we had to work till 4 a.m. That was a couple of those, but it wasn't because it wasn't ill behavior. It was just, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, for sure. And, people like Steve Levitan and some of the other guys you've worked with, they are not there to make a point or single someone out just for fun.
Yeah.
And you guys, you and Siebert as showrunners, you would never do that. You would never tolerate that.
No, our goal was always to go home early. That was how can we go home early today? What can we do to get the work done? Have a good hour. But what about developing when you come up with your own ideas? What's that? How does that work?
That was usually someone that I'd be in the writer's room with. They would come to me and say, I've got an idea. Do you like this? Or we would pair up just for the pitch.
So most of your okay, so people ask me about that. Can you work independently, or can you team up with people? Because we that's what you did mostly.
Yeah, and when I was like, I'd say mid-level writer, it would behoove me to go in with a showrunner or a co-EP.
Right.
And just so that I could have those meetings and kind of get the lay of the land until later when I would write
Alone.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, were you kind of working under them, or were you literally together?
Together.
Okay.
Together.
And then now when you come up with that idea, how does that work alone? I mean,
it was great. So we've been talking mostly about the 90s. And then after a few of the shows, like I went to work through the rest of the 90s, but I did definitely get the comedy knocked out of me. I went on to do a series of shows, and over that time there were less and less options because we had the game shows coming in and reality TV. And by 2000, I went to rehab. And it was very helpful. I mean, I got the shit kicked out of me, and I was no match. I was not cravenly ambitious. I was just always grateful to be there, which doesn't give you any control. And it was a short stint, and I was able to piece things together. I also took jobs for shorter amounts of time. Like if they had a full year season, I'd say I'll work the first 13.
What if they wanted you for the back 9 or whatever?
Then I said I'm not available, and I'd moved to New York, and just kind of in between each show, I had to do a lot of repair. I just had to sleep.
Interesting. I didn't even know that was an option. Like that's kind of unusual to kind of good for you. Like you're calling the shots. You're saying this is what I'm willing to do. I don't know anybody who does that, who can do that, I guess.
Well, I wasn't. I couldn't. I mean, financially, it was not the thing to do, but mentally, I knew that I had to not put myself in harm's way.
Right.
And I also had advertising to go back to occasionally.
Right.
So, I would say, so I continued to work. I'd pick up an episode here, less staff jobs available, but I just kind of eked out a living. It wasn't the trajectory that I'd started on.
Right.
And I was okay with that.
Hey, it's Michael Jamin. If you like my videos and you want me to email them to you for free, join my watch list. Every Friday, I send out my top 3 videos. These are for writers, actors, creative types. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. I'm not going to spam you, and it's absolutely free. Just go to michaeljamin.com/watchlist. Basically, this is the interesting part, which I don't really talk about a lot on anything, is the economics of really being a writer, because I don't know, we don't just talk about it, but because we were saying, you were calling the shots. You're saying, this is what I'm willing to do. I'll work this much. I don't want to work that much because it's not good for me, my mental health. And I get that. But so then had to make ends meet. You also have this other project that you've been working on. And I want to talk about that.
Yes. So I think we were talking about 2000 rehab. Excellent. Very helpful. And so it was on the heels of that I was starting to piece together what I wanted my life to look like, which was not working 18 hours a day with difficult people. Yeah. So I would take my jobs for shorter amounts of time. Like if a show had an order for 22, I said, I'll work on the first 13.
Right.
And then I would generally go to Texas or New York and then just repair in between shows. And financially, it was not a strong way to do it. But I wanted to circle back a little bit on the rehab stuff, you had asked at one point about was I in AA? And I want to say that never worked for me. And there was this book a few years back called Quit Like a Woman. And it was by Holly Whitaker, and it's about smart recovery. And one of the things that just made so much sense to me was that AA is a very patriarchal system. And one of the first things that they ask you to do is give away your power. And the thing is, we women are rendered powerless in so many situations already. Why the fuck would I want to go into a meeting and not have any agency over myself and my decisions? So that's a part of smart recovery, and I love it. I think it's really.
Do you meet as often as somebody, you know, in the group, or, you know?
No. And the thing about it is, I'm sort of a social drinker. I don't have an issue with that anymore. And it's really about, like, if you have a drink, you don't start at day one. You figure out if you want to manage your use of anything, or if you don't want to. Right. And it's just less punishing.
Right.
I'd say so. And I know that, you know, we're writers, we're tender souls, and we feel a lot. And I just wanted to get that out there. That's something that's really helped and resonated with me.
Viola Davis said something like that, you know, obviously not a writer, but an actor, but she said, I guess, I can't remember what it was about, but she's basically saying someone criticized her for having thin skin. And she goes, I'm supposed to have thin skin. I'm an artist. Like, you know, I'm not supposed to have thick skin. I'm supposed to feel things and express things.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's what we do. We do. And we feel things, and then we express them, and we write them, and we get it out there, and people get it. They understand that. You can't be general in really good writing. You have to be specific.
Right. Exactly. Specific. Yes. Yeah. Well, but tell me about your summit.
Okay. So
sum it up.
Sum it up. Sum it up. One of the things we don't talk about as writers is all that dead air, that space between gigs, or the fact that the seasons are shorter now, and the writing staffs are smaller, and the industry expands and contracts. And the summit, called Writers Making Money: Lose the Ego, Tap into Your Talent, and Bring Cash in During These Weird Ass Apocalyptic Times. I may have said that earlier. And it's really about, what are you doing for passive income, investing? How are you keeping the lights on? And so I talk to money experts and mindset coaches, and we talk about things like cash machines, which is, how do you bring in a little bit just in passive income? It's not hard. If you have lazy assets, like my IRA has been sitting there doing nothing for a long time. And we talk about what types of entities, as a creative person, you need to set up and forget. It'll run on its own without you, but just getting all of that in place. And so in 2020, my life imploded. And after that, and I'll just say a little bit, like in 2020, my house flooded, and I lost about 50 years worth of furniture, clothing, art, stuff like that. And then my husband emailed me divorce papers.
Right.
And then it gets worse.
And then COVID hit. And then while the house was being torn apart with asbestos tenting, my daughter and I moved into one corner of the house while she was in virtual school. I lost my dream job. I lost the house. And then we just decided to go and spend time in Woodstock, New York with friends, which was good. And then we came back in November, and about that Thanksgiving, my husband passed away.
Right.
So that was very hard. And I spent, after, we went through the grieving process, and then after we got that done, after we were cured of that, I started into just figuring out, again, what do I want my life to look like in my career? And I still want to write. And so I started taking business classes, business coaching, leadership training, and talking to money experts, and just like, what how am I setting myself up for generational wealth, which is something that I didn't look ahead. I didn't look to, excuse me. And then my daughter got into college, which was amazing. And she's in New York now. She's at the #1 design school in the country, Parsons. And we said yes. And then I looked at how much it was going to cost. And find out. Oh, and also in 2020, all my money kind of evaporated unbeknownst to me. So I was really starting from scratch with no home address.
Right.
And
what do you mean your money evaporated? What happened? What do you mean?
Well, my husband was, he was not well. He was very troubled and very ill. And that kind of went with him.
So he
found out that we were a few $100,000 in debt. So again, all that doesn't matter. It's just money. So we find out that Ava's college is $80,000.
Right.
I'm thinking, you know what? We're going to do this. We'll just figure out a way. So for the last 18 months, I have been figuring out ways to set our lives up and start bringing in money in a different way outside of TV, outside of just writing as a creative person. And it's working. And I just want people to know that there's
That's important because, creative people, like, we don't go into this profession. At least I don't think, we don't go into this profession to become middle managers. We don't go into to know about money because, like, I think that's part of also, I'm not excusing any of the bad behavior in TV shows, but no one becomes a writer because they want to manage people. They go into because they just want to goof off and be creative and do whatever. But the problem is that that can affect people, other people working underneath you.
Yeah, for sure. You know that as a showrunner, and you work up through the ranks because of your writing talent, and then you're suddenly in an administrative position as a showrunner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to be the boss. I just want to be a writer. But this is how it is now. Now you have to manage people. So anyway, so that's why I think what you're talking about in your summit is important. So yeah, tell us more about it.
Yeah. So I think it's really important because this is going to talk about using your left brain in a right brain industry. And it's not that hard. It's not that scary. I talked to this one woman who's known for her Millionaire Maker series. And I started working with her this summer. It's like, I'm doing everything wrong. I know that. And I've made money and I've spent it. And I would kind of like to not do that anymore. And her team is, they're talking about how to get me set up and any of their other clients. And it's been just a complete game changer. Right. And she's very intense and very complex in all of the knowledge that she has. She's not a Susie Orman or a Dave Ramsey, where they talk about saving and don't have that latte in the morning. And she says, oh, fuck all that. Live your life, make money, and do the right thing with it, because we just aren't ever aware of what to do, like lazy assets. My IRA sitting there, and now I'm going to instead take some of that out and put it into an investing group that will put money into apartment buildings and real estate. And y'all who have houses out here are, that is great, but it's not a financial strategy. And anyway, so I was excited about learning all of this, especially on the heels of having to reconfigure my whole life. And I just want to get it out there.
Yeah, you did a giant reset. Reset.
Yeah.
It's very overwhelming. I'm getting nervous just thinking about what you did.
It was weird. It was really hard. And I am grateful. Like, I'm grateful for my life. There's one of two ways you can go when tragedy happens. And that is, you can stay in it and think of all the other bad things that are right around the corner. Or you can pick yourself up and get going in a completely different way. That was the real impetus for me, is like, I want to do things differently. And there's something you said about hustling.
Yes.
So I'm now putting questions out there and answering them and not even giving you any airtime. She said something about, yeah, like we all hustle, we all get the work done. One thing that I wanted to do in this new reset was to not hustle as much. What I do, I'm working a lot, but at home on my own schedule. And if it feels like it's getting stressful or a sense of urgency, I take a nap. I just slow down, and I want to do it in a more peaceful way.
Right. That's so interesting. And so people can learn more about the summit at dawndekeyser.com.
/Writers Making Money.
/Writers Making Money. And so then when is the next one?
It's going to be October 17th through the 19th. So for 3 days we have, for 3 days we have 9 speakers.
Right.
And each day we'll talk, like one, I talked to an actress who is now writing this really fabulous children's book series. She loves that. She's like, I still act, but here's something that fills my heart.
Right.
Talking to Laurel Langmeyer, who's intense. She's so intense. And she talks about money in a way of, let's get everything. Let's not have your bookkeeper talk to your CPA, talk to your business manager. She's like, we just do everything and all in one place, which is what I.
And we should mention this is all free for people who want to join the summit, right?
It's all free. It's free. So you just sign up, give me your email and your name, and you'll get access to all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you also have a consulting business, a script consulting business.
I do. So all that's going to launch too. I am all about putting everything off to the last minute. So that launches next week, and that'll be on my dawndekeyser.com website. I'll be doing script consulting, coaching for creatives, and the writers' room. We'll meet once a week. 3 times a month. Yeah. We'll do guest speakers and Q&A, and then writing sprints.
What's a writing sprint?
That is kind of a Pomodoro style. I put on a timer and pencils up, heads down.
Oh, okay. And then you give a little short assignment.
Not even, I'll say set your intention at the very beginning of what you want to accomplish in the next 25-minute sprint.
Okay.
And we just do a check-in. It helps to get online or, to check in with other people. Your Facebook group is really going strong, and people are finding each other there. Mm-hmm. And that's been really helpful for them.
Yeah. Interesting. You got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I want to talk about when you're on a show, like what's your experience like working with new young writers, and what do you see? Do's and don'ts.
Yeah, I see the ones that just grab my heart are the ones who try really hard. Mm-hmm. They are like to a cringy point. Like, I love that. I was working on a pilot, and this one young writer came in. She was given a shot, and she had her script in a big binder, 3-ring binder, with all of her color coordinated Post-it notes. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, she's after my own heart. Like,
prepared.
She was prepared. That's right.
Because sometimes new young writers, they'll look at the boss, and because the boss very often isn't really prepared, because they got a million things going on, or even some of the upper level writers, they kind of play it loose. But and so sometimes they go, well, if the boss has got his feet up on her feet up on the desk, so can I. I'll just do what the boss is doing. But you're not the boss. You
have not earned the right to put your feet up on the table yet.
Right. But when you see people come in prepared, I like that. I like, sometimes they'll say, I have a pitch. I'm like, oh, good. They'll say, like, I have 5 ideas. Well, let's hear them. I don't have any ideas.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's just sort of, not taking it personally. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of writers who litigate their mm-hmm. script.
They overstep, right?
They do. And they just argue they don't need to argue. Mm-hmm. Their work is on the page. It either is working or it's not. And you are in a room with professionals who will tell you. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to explain to them what you put in the script and why, because they don't care. It's not working.
Right.
So yeah, it is that losing the ego part of it.
Yeah, it's hard for people to it's hard for young writers to accept that, and they don't see it yet. And then as you get older, and then sometimes I feel like I'm a crotchety old guy. But I don't think so. I think you have the experience, and it's like I don't want to argue with you. I know from experience that this is how it's got to go. This is what you presented is not going to work. I just know that.
Yeah, you've done your time.
Yeah. And do you feel? But how do you? And I think we talked about this a little bit. How do you think people are breaking in today?
Oh, that's right. I said I do not know. I have no idea.
No.
Yeah, I have no idea. What you and Rob Cohen talked about was just coming in from all different angles. Like mine was a winding road getting here, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. But it's like no one is going to give you a career. They will give you a shot. And that's why your work has to be outstanding. And I say not good, not great, outstanding. And you'll get work. I just and there are so many.
Because some people think, well, it's good enough, or it's better than what the garbage that I see on TV, and they think, well, okay, maybe it is, but it's that's not good enough.
But people have been saying that since I started in TV. It's like, oh, it's better than what's on the air. No, it's not.
No,
you're competing with a room of 12 professional writers who have each other to bounce it off of. And there's a reason that they write all of that. It may not end up great. That may be for all these reasons that you have no access to, which is network notes or
acting notes, the actor you can get it from. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons. Even, I haven't really talked about this a lot, but even writing a bad television show is hard. Even writing bad TV is hard,
It is so hard. I worked on this one show that was a drama, but just inadvertently a comedy. It was so terrible. And I think we got written up in the Hollywood Reporter for it just being so campy. We weren't going for campy. We were just trying to get the scripts to the actors.
Right. How funny. Do you find, I think we've talked, I don't remember if we mentioned this, but do you find working, because you kind of transitioned from comedy, sitcom, to dramedy and even drama, like, and I think you were talking about it's even more chill, like, what? Because I haven't worked in drama really. So what are the differences in the writing room, the writers' room for that?
It's a huge difference. So 2017, Me Too movement. That was a game changer for people like me who had been dragged around a few rough corners. And it did change the personality of a lot of writers' rooms, as you know. For me, comedy was always kind of a full contact sport. You'd be in the room with comedians, performers, writers, and there would be jumping up and down, and just it was a lot of performance. And so
because you got to sell that joke,
you got to sell it.
Right.
You got to sell it. No one else is going to sell it. So my first job in drama was Ugly Betty, but they had half of the staff was comedy writers, which hadn't been done a lot or before.
Right.
So what I noticed was that the drama writers were so writerly, and they were so not worried about selling the act break and getting the big joke out on a beat or a scene. And it was so great. It was so great to talk about the story and not worry about how you're going to sell the joke. For me, I liked that part of it. And then I went on to be in other drama rooms that were just very respectful.
And how did you make that transition? You had because it's not like you could just jump from comedy writer to drama. You're kind of starting over.
Kind of, I didn't look at it that way. I will say that drama writers don't tend to become comedy writers.
Right. It's a one, right. If you can write comedy, you can probably write drama, but not necessarily the other way around, right?
Right. I mean, it's just a whole different muscle. I don't know. I think I got the shit kicked out of me in comedy. So I thought I'm now more serious.
But now you started writing samples. You got to write samples. You got to start as if you'd never done, because you'd never done it before. You had to start writing drama samples.
That's right. And I found that the agents did not want to market to me that way. I've already established myself, and they would then have to hand me over to a different set of agents.
That's interesting. Because I talk about this as well. So many people think that as soon as I get an agent, how do I get an agent? They say this all the time. How do I get an agent? As if that's going to help at all. That's not going to change your life. Once even when you become at your level, you're in charge.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I didn't get an agent until I'd won some script writing contests. I was in the Disney Writers Fellowship. I was writing all those scripts on one of their shows, and I still couldn't get an agent.
Still couldn't get an agent. Yeah.
And so I contacted CAA and UTA, and they're like, yeah, no, we're very interested. And no one would pull the trigger. So I called CAA back and said, yeah, I'm going into UTA this afternoon. And that's when I got the offer. And then I called UTA. I said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go to CAA this afternoon.
And wow. So you were just bluffing.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. For a while when we, God, where were we? I think we were at Endeavor, and we weren't getting much, I guess we weren't getting the kind of help, the support we needed. Then as soon as we threatened to go to UTA, like everyone was calling. Suddenly they wanted to talk to us.
yeah, that'll get them sitting up straight.
Yeah. Good for you. That's hard. That's gutsy. But okay, so then, but in terms of breaking stories, is it kind of the same on a drama for?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. Instead of going out on a big blow, you go out on a big cliffhanger.
Right.
And
a pregnant moment.
What?
That's what I was told it's called. It's a pregnant moment. Like, oh.
Yes, that's right. Yes. What next?
Yeah.
And I just really liked it. I had this lovely experience working with Martha Williamson, who created Touched by an Angel. And she's one of like the top Christian women in the country. And she was interviewed on 60 Minutes, and she's had quite a big career. And I had never been in a respectful writer's room before. And so I was like, oh, we can't say fuck. And the two other guys, it was just like four of us, said, oh, no. And so I thought, okay, no, I'm going to give it a go. And
I'm going to hold my tongue when I don't have to say, be crass.
Yeah, I'm not going to be disgusting. So it was a really great experience.
Right. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And the dramas that I've done. And then things sort of went like, I was able to write episodes of Hallmark shows. I call that the women writers ghetto. Because we all sort of end up there doing our cozy mysteries, which
it used to be, I guess, children's shows, but I guess now you're saying it's Hallmark
has always been the family network.
Yeah.
Family.
But when you develop, are you on your own? Are you mostly doing comedy or drama?
Comedy, no, I would say both. And I'm not developing a lot. I have had this one idea that I love so much that I'm afraid to write it. I just can't seem to do it.
Why?
Because I want it to be really good.
Well, why don't you write it as a book then?
No, it's a great series.
Yeah, but if you sell it as a book, then you can turn it as a TV show. No?
Book writing, that's hard.
Book writing? What would I know?
Oh, book writing?
What do you mean book writing?
What is this book thing you talk about?
Interesting. But okay, so I want to make sure everyone knows more about, I guess we talked about it. I want to make sure before we sign off that everyone knows more about how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you and learn more about your summit and your consulting services and all that.
Yeah, so that's all coming out next week, and maybe by the time this runs.
Yeah, probably.
And it's hope Instagram, Dawn DeKeyser Writes, TikTok, Dawn DeKeyser Writes, website, DawnDeKeyser.com. And I will tell you, you use your name in all of your stuff. I just was so uncomfortable doing that. I was calling it everything else but what I am doing. So now it's just my name. Yeah,
I know. I was a little in the beginning. I was, it was uncomfortable because writers we're not actors. We're behind the scene. It's weird for us to promote ourselves this way. That's not what we do. We're not That's what the actors do. We write for somebody else, put them in front. So that was a hurdle for me I had to get over, you know.
How did you get over it?
You know, I'm always reminded of the Oscar Wilde. There's a wonderful quote that I think he said, but I'm not sure because I couldn't find it again. But he said, I think he said, you'd worry less about what other people think about you if you realized how little they did, which works on two levels, which means they already think you're garbage. So what are you worried about? Or they're just thinking about themselves. And so, yeah, I just, at some point I was like, screw it. If people want to judge me, let them. They're going to forget about me anyway. I'm not on anyone's, you know. Why does no one's staying up late to think about me?
Right. Right. That's good to know. I mean, that is liberating.
Yeah. You know, and I do actually, I've thought about it a lot, and especially as a writer, because I started, you know, writing more like personal essays, more stuff about my life. And then I kind of realized that there's like a paradox about judgment, and that, because I did this show, and then I didn't want people to think, like, my biggest fear would be to perform my work and have people think, oh, this guy's not a good writer, you know? And to be a good writer, you have to expose yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the paradox. So if I don't want people to judge me, I have to allow people to judge me. I have to make myself vulnerable so that they might judge me, ironically. And if you do that, they ironically won't judge you, you know?
On your website, you talk about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because that's exactly right. You put yourself out there, your heart, and it can hurt.
But to me, the bigger pain is having someone say, oh, you can't write.
Right.
It's like that would hurt harder. So I'd rather just be vulnerable and that people, wow, because people walk away and they go, wow, how'd you do that? That was pretty brave. I'm like, no, it would have been brave if I gone up there with my less than adequate work. Then, you know, that would have been brave, I feel like, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Keep your work at the highest level. You know, that's just, there are no shortcuts. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways in, but they're just not shortcuts.
That's another thing. And I was going to do, I guess, a post about this, but every time I talk to a writer, everyone has a different way in. It's not like becoming a doctor where you go to med school, you take your MCATs, you go to med school, you do residency. For a writer, everyone has a different path to get in. So it's not like, you know, it's more like a curiosity thing when I ask people how they break in, but it's not like you can follow that path. You have to make your own.
Yeah, no. And to follow my path, you'd have to go, you do a little time travel into an alcoholic family. So I don't.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah.
No, don't do it.
Wow. Well, Dawn, I want to thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be a good one. So thank you so much. Everyone go check out her website, DawnDeKeyser.com. She's got a lot to offer. The webinar is free. Sit in on that. You'll get a lot. And, you know.
Thank you for promoting that.
Of course.
You know, we as writers and not marketers, thank you.
No, yeah. You know, you're being too shy, so I have to promote you.
Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you again. I'll put this up. All right, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.
This has been an episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin. If you'd like to support this podcast, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing this podcast with someone who needs to hear today's subject. For free daily screenwriting tips, follow Michael on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Michael Jamin Writer. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Phil A. Hudson. This episode was produced by Phil Hudson and edited by Dallas Crane. Until next time, keep writing.